Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Webshots. I want to share some important points regarding the capital market, which is a newly established institutions in Ethiopian context. So I want to share you what I have and what I learned about the uh, establishment in the functionality of the capital market. So before I start my video presentations, I think it will be nice to introduce myself about who I am. So as you see from the slides, my name is Ushekasa. I have got my BA in economics from Harama University and MSc in development economics from Adama Science and Technology, and also I have got another master's in development policy with the first concentration in sustainable development and second concentrations with the finance and macroeconomic policy from Korean development institutions. As to my work experience, I have been working in various institutions in Ethiopia for the past 17 or 15 years. So currently I am working as an economic policy advisor at GIZ Africa Union, particularly on African continental free trade area aspects. So the aim of my series of video presentations, I will upload you continuous video presentation regarding the capital market and stock market. So what motivated me or what was the aim of producing those video series is the first one is to provide you with the basic concepts of the capital markets. And the second one is about the fundamental concepts of investment management. And finally, I will introduce you about the modern portfolio theories. And I want also to get feedback from you as an audience. So the topics on my series video presentations may includes the relation between the risk and return, which means investment in the capital market is not just a smooth situation. There are a number of risks that the investors need to face. The other important thing is the mean variance optimization. The risk on the investment in the capital market is mainly measured by the variance. So how can we optimize the mean in the variance of the investment or the portfolio that we practice on the capital market. The third one is the capital asset pricing model, the KPM. There are detailed issue in these main topics, and the other is the factors model is another model that we apply on the analysis of the financial or the capital market. And the fifth one is the portfolio performance evaluation. Since once the capital market is started, the investors may not hold a single stock. So if the investors hold more than one stock, we call it a portfolio. So how can we evaluate the performance of the portfolio is also another issue that I want to share you as a basic information. The other one is the bond and the immunization strategy, as well as the options and the simulations is also another the marketing strategy on the bond, the capital market. So we will also see some important points regarding the options in the simulations. And lastly, I'll see the risk management strategy, such as the value at risk. These are the entire motivations that makes me to deliver this video presentation for you, and those who are interested on such topic can also complement this video presentations. So the aim of the first parts of my video presentations is just to help you to become an informed practitioners of investment. Once the capital market in Ethiopia is starting operating or start its operations, you need to have the at least the basic informations before you invest your money to the capital market. So my series of video presentations may help you to understand about how the capital markets operating, how can I get a return, and what are the risks in the disadvantage and the advantage of investing in the capital market. So we'll focus on investment securities such as stock, bonds, options, and also the futures contracts. Both much of what we discuss will be useful in not only in the capital market but also in any types of investment. You can apply such kinds of technique to analyze the investment options before you spend your money on such activity. So the video also provides you the background in the organizations of various security market, how the security market is organized and how it will be functional. You need also have the organizations of those security markets in our cases, and will survey the valuations of the risk management principle useful in the market, such as those of the bonds in the stocks. This is also another thing that motivates me to share my views for my audiences. And finally, you will be introduced with the principle of portfolio constructions. So once the capital market is getting operational, most of the investors may not only hold a single stock or a single investment options. Yeah, they may hold different kinds of investment choices. So if the investor holds more than one stock or one investment option, so we call it a portfolio. So how can you construct our portfolio in order to be successful on the our participations of the capital market is also the other issue that I want to address. So in the first parts of my presentations, the first content just to introduce you how the capital market works, why then we need the capital market in the like. And second, the portfolio theory and practices, equilibrium in the capital market, fixed income security, security analysis, option, forward, and applied portfolio management will also be seen or addressed to get your feedbacks and to also to benefit you as an investment practitioners in the capital market. So the basic presentations of the part one or the first series of my video is just includes the introduction part, and in this introduction part is just simply what does mean capital formations, why we need the capital market, is it important to have a capital market for a certain country, or without the capital market, the economy can function properly is the other issues. And the necessary condition, what are the conditions that needs to be a certain country fulfill in order to get a fully operational capital market is also another important that we will see briefly. Factor influence the capital market. Capital market is not just simply a smooth way. So there are different factors, just like any other financial institution as well as any economic institution. The capital market is also different, affected by different factors. The other thing is capital market is share owners in Africa and the impact of fiscal policy. The fiscal policy, particularly the tax that the government will levy on the income earned from the capital market is one of the issues that influence our participations on the capital market. So we will also have a look on the physical policy of the government, how it can affect the capital market, and finally we'll have a final tips and the takeaways. So this is the introduction part. So the introduction part, so what is the capital formations? As we know, capital formation is one of the main factors responsible for economic growth. When a certain country is planned or wish to get a higher amount of economic growth or to bring economic development, the capital formation is a prerequisite. So in less developed countries like Ethiopia, the availability of capital is one of the central themes of the growth possibility. That's why there are so many investors who have money, and there are also various intellectuals or highly educated or entrepreneurs who need the money, but they didn't get that money from the formal bank. So in order to make a link between those who have the financial capacity and those entrepreneurs or those intellectuals to bring economic growth, we need to have such kinds of institutions. So because of the considerable capital investment needed in less developed country like us for the agricultural industrial sector, as well as the provisions of the basic infrastructure facility, we need to have a capital. So the emphasis of the availability of capital is not sorry. The, the emphasis on the availability of the capital is not misplaced, but it should not be allowed to obscure the limits of the capacity of the country to absorb a new investment. So the success in mobilizations of the required amounts of capital from the capital market or from other sources mainly depends on the availability of the domestic saving of the economy, as well as the inflow of foreign capital, be it in the form of foreign direct investment, remittance or other means or loans. Those two issues will determine the availability of capital in a certain country. So, given the relative scarcity of capital in less developed country like us, a small volume of saving in most developing country like our country, is the questions may be asked whether there is a need to formulate or establish a capital market or such kinds of institutions. So the answer for these questions is mainly depends on the role or the missions that the government's given for such kinds of institutions to bring development on certain country. So the needs of the capital market maybe in general arise in two things. The first one is just partly because the government requirements of to borrow from the local financial institutions, and second is partly as a result of the expanded private sectors that requires the local funds for both the expansions of the new development and the development as well as the new investment activity. So capital market exists to offer the mechanism whereby those supplying the capital quickly and easily restore their liquidity. As you know it, for example, it is very difficult in our case to liquidate the capital stock that an individual investors have. For example, if you take the bond that the certain household or a certain investors bought for the Green Renaissance dams, it's not easy to liquidate unless the maturity date is reached, which means there is an absence of the secondary market on such kinds of issues. So when the capital market is come in place, such kinds of issue will be very easier. So the size, the effectiveness in the operations of such market depends on other things. One, on the supply of the capital, which means the national saving of a certain country. The saving determines. Without the saving that the household and the investors have, that must be go to the capital market in order to make a fruitful transaction. The second thing is the extent to which the economy is monetized. The monetization capacity of the economy also another factors, and the number of potential investors who are willing to participate on the capital market is also determine the success of the operations of the given capital market, and the degree of sophistication of the investing in the public also another thing that we need to consider when we are planning to fully operationalize our capital market. Therefore, the two aspects of the role of the capital market in the mobilizations of saving and investment process are: the first one is this capital market acts as a link between the borrowers and the savers in the economy. So the borrowers and the savers can interact in this capital market to exchange their capitals and to get more return from the capital market. The second thing is it facilitates the purchase and sale of debit instruments like securities and shares, particularly through dealing with stock exchange. So these two functions call for the organizations of a certain institutions, the network which is referred to as the capital market. So the linkage of the borrowers to the saver requires the organizations. So the linkage of borrowers to the saver requires the organizations of a financial intermediaries that is capable of small savings to mobilize or collect small amounts of savings from the public and directing them to investment in accordance with the demands of the capitals in the economy. So a stock exchange not only permits dealing with an existing security, which means in secondary market, but also it facilitates the issue of new securities or in the form of the primary market. So even where a stock exchange doesn't exist, substitutions of machinery would have developed to facilitate the transfer of securities and debit instruments to the economy. So on the basis of these functions, one would expect the capital market to exist in any free market economy, and that every national economy doesn't have a reasonably workable capital market must therefore be attributable to the other factors. So the demand for capital by the public sectors in most African countries can be relatively small and has been met largely from the official loans and the grants. Whereas the demand for capital in the private sectors, other than the rural sectors of the economy, has been met largely through the foreign private capital or by the bank sectors. Additionally, because of the relationship between many African countries and other former metropolitan powers, they have relied on or depends on the capital markets of the former metropolitan countries like the United Kingdom and France to meet their capital requirements, which means in most of African countries, the fully operationality of the capital market is not as such appreciated. So if that is the case, what is the necessary conditions we need to fulfill in order to get a fully operational capital market in a certain country? We can take it in the case of Ethiopia. The first thing is there is a need for what may be called investment psychology of the private sector. Since it is a new issue, the investment psychology of the private sector. The investment must be properly initiated, and the private sector must be fully aware about this capital market, how it operates, how it benefits the investors, and so on, so on. So among wide sections of the public, that means the attitude of individuals and institutions towards investing in non-physical variable price assets such as stock and shares must be clearly or aware. Since when we start LOS and new things, it's not easy to convince our partners or our investors. The second thing is there has to be a fair degree of monetizations of the economy to permit a relatively constant and large volume of financial saving. Saving must be the other thing. The saving rate must be increasing, and the volume of the saving that will go to the capital market can also increase. The other is there should be a relatively large volumes of securities and new issue available on the basis. The securities that the capital market issues or the issuing party must be higher, and it must be frequently issued. The fourth one is for a workable capital market is necessary to have a large pool of buyers and holders of the security. So the participants on the capital market must be higher. There must be enough amounts of buyers and holders of security. So the vitality of the capital market depends on both one on the volume of the financial saving being channeled into the investment through the capital market mechanism, and the other is the velocity of trading in the security. The security must be circulated, it must be exchanged. The secondary market must be highly proactive. So the other thing, the network of the monetary and financial institutions must be either in existence or developed. So in general, the factors that influence the capital markets in any world is on the supply of the saving. The size of the capital market is necessary to influence it by the low income in developing countries in the asset performance of investing in the public. Since the income is very low in less developed country and developing country, the amounts of savings that individual save to the financial institutions is less. So if saving is low, which means there may not be sufficient amounts of capital that will be exchanged or invested in the capital market. So this is one of the factors. That means we need to increase our income capacity. And as you all know, the income, particularly the disposable income, that's the one who spent as a saving or a consumption, must be higher. So with the low levels of income and the standard of living, individual may be more concerned with the current than the future welfare. In less developed country like Ethiopia, since the income level is very low, individual mainly spend their total income on the current issue rather than saving. That's why the saving rate as well as the gross saving in a given country is low. So hence, any improvement in the income is likely to be devoted to satisfying the current wants, and consequently, thus the proportions of the income saved in relation to the total domestic saving is very low. So low income and accompanying uncertainty will also tend to encourage saving to be held in the forms of involve relatively little risk and are quickly convertible or liquid forms of assets directly under the owner control. Which means since the income of the households is very low in less developed country, they rather prefer to hold their amounts of money in just simply convertible forms rather than investing in the capital market. The other factor is influence the many people existing at the near of subsistence level to hoard money, precious stones and golds. So people always prefer to hold their money in terms of non-monetary terms like the gold and the precious stones. This is also another factor. If the people hold their amounts of money in such cases, which means the amounts of capital or money that will be channeled to the capital market may be less. The factor influence many people exist at near or subsistence level holds their money in non-financial terms than in the capital market. So these factors under the accumulated findings of in economic literatures of the smaller availability of holding financial assets in developing countries than developed countries. Hence, the size of the capital market is highly depends on the countries will be much smaller than developed economy. So income is the a great factor that can influence the fully functionality of the capital market. The other important thing is income saving and monetization. Since capital market is essentially the machinery charging the flow of financial saving into investment, the principal factor determines its emergency in developing economy are the size of the money income that individual will have. So in general, in African countries, saving is generally believed to be low, which means the capital market performance is also low when you compare it the developed when you compare it with the developed countries. So the degree of monetization is also another factor of the economy of Africans in general low. Monetization can be measured in the context of the ratio of money supply, which means the currency plus demand deposit to the gross national product, which means the inverse of the income velocity of money. Another indicator of monetary saving is an economy is the size of the quasi money, uh, while not constituting by any means of the total saving, the economy, the proportions of the quasi money in the total amount of money is an indication of the existence which the peoples are willing to save it or to channel it to the financial institution. The other important factor that can influence the emergency of capital markets in African countries is the structures of the economy. On the whole, the supply of the securities of capital markets will depends on the organizations of the economic activity. As we all know, most of the economic activity in African countries is mainly on agrarian kinds of economy, which means it needs relatively small amounts of capital. So the first thing is the relative importance of non-monetized activity in the agricultural sectors, in the organizations of the companies of the corporation operating in the modern sector is also the factors that we need to consider to create a fully operational and proper kinds of the capital market. So in the structure of African economy, the dominance of the agriculture are particularly striking experts in the few countries with a sizable mining. In fact, most countries is a major problem has been the rise of the capital for agricultural enterprises. So furthermore, the number of the problem connected with the landholding system also another important thing that we need to consider. So the demand for fixed equipment as other investment generally requires financial resources that has to be tied up for a long period of time. So the provisions of such resources requires financing and saving, which has to be provided locally or from abroad. So the extent that such resources has to be found dramatically expansions of industrial enterprises would call it a creations of the capital market. So there is an emerging issue of the needs of the capital for the modernizations of agriculture as well as the newly generating or establishing industrial activity that needs higher amounts of capital, which means there is also a need of the capital market. However, industrialization in African countries is still in their early stage of development. So the fact that the supply of security has not emerged on the wide scale in African economy reflects the limited degree of industrialization and the concentrations of the mining in those countries that are relatively industrialized. In the fact, these enterprises, including the mining, are mainly foreign owned or foreign controlled companies that drive high proportions of the long term capital from abroad, which means for the locally developed industrial activity, getting the capital is a very challenging issue. Very challenging issue. So even in the country with some indigenous enterprises, these are closely held companies that militate against any substantial supply of security for issue of the public. Also, the government is increasingly involved in the joint ventures in a number of countries. The shares such ventures are still held by the various governments. In short, the structures and the organizations of the economy in most African countries at present do not facilitate the emergence of workable capital market, except the few like the South Africa, Kenya, Egypt, and the like. So only few countries in Africa have organized capital market with stock exchange. Ethiopia has established the Capital Market Authority by proclamation number 1248/2021. So the Capital Market Service Provider Licensing Supervisions Directive and different kinds of directive also developed and available on the sites of the authorities. So one of the issues that motivate me to present such kinds of video is just to share what I know for those who are interested to get, and I also want to complement my understanding on this issue. So in countries without any organized capital market, individuals or institutions owning the share lack facility of depositing such securities within there is a need for liquidity. Unless the securities are held in bearer form, they cannot be traded easily. If at all, any hence the approach of the physical assets is the lack of the liquidity. Apart from individual ownership of the share, in closely held companies, many institutions and governments in African countries own the shares in the joint venture. And the ownership of such share doesn't focus implies the existence of the organized markets in which it can be traded. The other important issue as an introduction need to understand is the factors that affect the establishment of fully operational capital market is the impacts of the fiscal policy. So the central interest in the nature of the taxations of the property in and the income on the capital gain that may be accrued from the stock, share, and the bond. Where tax liability arises, the majority concentrations is whether the various taxes are such as encourage or discourage the holdings of the security compared with other forms of property. So with respect to the taxations on the incomes and whether the asset performance will most probably be influenced by the tax rate structures and of the economy. If the tax rate is very high, which means investors may not be encouraged to participate on the capital market. So this is quite important because shareholders generally belongs to the middle income and high income groups. and are influenced by tax considerations in the marketing investments decision. Hence, any physical arrangement that generally introduce the burdens of taxations are likely to encourage the share owners and holding of the security. So we need to also consider the physical policy when you want to establish a fully operational the capital market in order to alleviate our demand for capital for our private sector as well as the government. In addition to the taxations of the income and wealth involved in ownership of security, there may be stamp duties or transfer tax which constitutes of additional costs that have to be taken into account in determining the asset performance of the holder. So not only the tax rate, those transfer tax, stamp duty, and the like also another important factor that can encourage or discourage the individual investor to invest in the capital market. So taxation practice in African countries do not appear in discriminate against the ownership of the security, and in many countries there is no tax on the capital gain released on the sales of the security, while most countries divided income receive favorable tax treatment. As an introduction, I think this is very insightful, and you can also complement it by adding your own views. And I will going to deep dive to the main contents of our presentation, starting from the definitions of investment, how to analyze the advanced forms of analyzing of investment issues in the stock market. So my contact address is here. And you can also what do you need, you can also write what do you need for the next presentations and what is missing in these presentations, and what can you also contribute on the sharing your knowledge on the formations of the capital market, of the establishments of the capital market in Ethiopian context. So please write your comments on my video presentations in order to further improve the style as well as the contents of my presentation. So thank you very much.